Hello, everybody. Today I have a very, very exciting personality and a very good friend of mine on screen today. A very busy person. We had to reschedule pretty number of times to get to this, and that's what Sharon tells us. So here I have on screen Sharon Mascarenhas, who is a senior simulation educator um, and deals with a lot of things. So of course, we'll go through the talks and understand what her profile is all about and how great it is for nurses to pursue this sort of credential. Thank you, Sharon, for being on the Pearl Cruise Show, and thank you for taking our time for this.
Thank you so much, Pearl, and I'm really grateful. Despite of the, multiple reschedulings that we had, we finally made it. And that's what I said. No, my first word to you shouldn't be
Yes,
hi, should be finally, because
finally. Yeah.
because we made it. So thank you for having me. Mhm.
Absolute pleasure, Sharon. So, without much ado, let's just straight off go to understand what simulation is all about. So, first, I would like to know, Sharon, what inspired you? Because I remember we did our master's program together. I was in
Yes.
the cardiothoracic specialty. You were in the OBGY.
Yeah.
But of course, you've been an academician all your life. So, what inspired you to pursue a career, in simulation education? And just tell us something about how your journey has shaped up in this career.
Okay. So even after my master's, Pearl, I moved to Goa from Mumbai, and then I was working with the College of Nursing for almost 5 years. And then during that period, I got married, and then I moved to Dubai. And when I came here, I was looking for something uh, in healthcare, something teaching focused, and I was applying frantically here and there. And then the job offers that came to me, there was something or the other which I didn't like, in the terms and conditions, and I was not sure whether to take it. And when this career opportunity came, I would say it's an opportunity rather than a choice. So I saw this opening for a simulation nurse educator. At that point, it was advertised. And I just applied for it. And I just read a bit about it, and I was like, oh, this looks very similar to the nursing labs we have back in India. But it was only later that I realized that, well, it looked like the labs, but the pedagogy and everything behind it was a lot more. So it's only when I started exploring it, started, learning more about it, I came to know that it's the science on its own.
Right.
Yeah, simulation-based education, and yep.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, there are a lot of talks because when I was interviewing Alka ma'am, who was your OBGY
Yes.
professor.
Yes.
So when I had interviewed her and I was asking her what would be the way forward for transforming nursing education, and she just said simulation. That's it. She
Hmm.
said we have to have more simulation based training. She did mention your name, and I told her I'll be interviewing you soon. So I think in India now they've started understanding the essence of simulation based training because uh, back when we were doing our nursing, hospitals, there were less number of colleges of nursing. Hospitals were wide open to come for novice nurses to come and practice and, on live patients. But I think that has slowly because of various reasons, patient advocacy and various other reasons that all has all gone in backseat. And then when you don't have anybody to practice, I think simulation offers the best possible solution to like near real situation. How has the simulation transformed this whole nursing and medical education, and what are the skill sets or the competencies that a simulation educator need to possess?
So, as we speak, Pearl, you take me to my year two in nursing school. And I remember one of the first procedural skills I had to do. It was not an invasive procedural skill. It was rather simple, I would say, down the line. And I had a fourth year student with me. I had an intern with me, but I was so scared. I was petrified because it was my first time actually doing a procedure uh, on a patient. And I'm just thinking, like, what if I had practiced that procedure before, or I did it on a mannequin or a task trainer. I would have been, I think, much more relaxed. I would have been more confident. And if I had seen myself do it, like probably record myself, I myself could have self reflected and said, oh, Sharon, you're not doing this right, or this could be improved. So there are so many. I would say good things about simulation based education today, which can take teaching and learning to the next level. So what we usually focus on is procedural skills in simulation, and we focus on scenario-based training. Now, procedural skills are very focused skills like lumbar puncture, your IV arms, intramuscular, nasogastric tube insertion. So they are very specific skills done on task trainers, as we call them. And scenario-based training is 5 or 6 students together. It could be same profession. It could be interprofessional, like a code, for example. When you're calling a code, you have so many interprofessionals over there, just to see, is there a team leader? Is there an emerging team leader? So, we look at all of that. We look at communication skills. We look at team dynamics. We There are so many aspects that you can pick up in these team-based trainings. So, I think that also is really, really good, because if there is something that you want to build on, for example, if I'm a team leader or a team member who feels that they are not very competent in the skill they are allocated to or they are asked to do, you can always go through that scenario and revisit that whole process again and again. So I think that way it's really shaping healthcare professions. Um, because you can do it over and over again. You can do it in a safe space. You have patient safety in place. You're no longer utilizing the patient as an experiment, because the patient also knows that when this competent nurse, this competent doctor comes to me, imagine how good I will feel as a patient if I know that this person has practiced it 3 or 4 times on something very realistic to the human anatomy. So I, as a patient, also will feel very, very confident in that. So I think it is only upwards and onwards with simulation-based education. And I only wish it was in place. Well, matter of fact, it was in place. Yeah. If you look at our OBGYN, simulators, the pelvis with the doll, learning how to give intramuscular injections on an orange, you
Yes.
know that, right? So all
Yes.
of that was simulation, but
Yeah.
probably just the title and the pedagogy was not that clear. The scientific
Mm.
backing was not that clear. But nowadays, there's so much research. There's a long way yet to go, but it's just getting better as we speak.
That's great. And is it? I just wanted to know if it's is it in Dubai specifically?
Yeah.
Is it like a part of any academics now? Is simulation used as the
Yeah,
model for learning?
simulation is a part of their curriculum.
Yeah, and it
Yeah.
is mandatory. Like
It's
no hospital.
mandatory. It is used for training and it is used for
Brilliant.
assessments.
Yeah.
So the rule here is if you don't train using simulation, you don't assess using simulation. So we
Ah.
train them and we assess them using simulation.
Oh, that is good, and I think that's what most of the colleges are looking at now to
Yes.
embed simulation as a part of training into their academic program, and I think that is honestly, like you said, is the way forward for everybody. Gives you a safe space, makes you understand what your errors are, and then when you are actually doing it on a patient, you know what the steps are correctly and what to do and what not to do. So having said that about the nursing student, what advice would you give to nurses who are interested in specializing as simulation experts? Today, if you ask a nurse what she wants to do going forward, she would probably, just the usual sense like a neuro nurse, or they will pick up particular specialties. But rarely people do say that I want to be a simulation expert, and that is what we are trying to do through this show. To make people, nurses, understand there is such
Mhm.
a wide scope for nurses. So, what advice would you give to nurses who want to look at this particular career line and pursue their goal as a simulation expert?
Um, so nursing is, I would say, one of the top healthcare professions that uses simulation vigorously because of the n number of skills, that we have to learn. Yeah. So it should be used in nursing, and definitely it has to be embedded into the nursing curriculum. And because of this, we need more nurses who can teach using simulation-based education, because simulation is a tool, right? It's a tool, it's an effective tool, and when used wisely and correctly and effectively, it can work wonders. So, just how teaching is a skill, simulation based education, using simulation to teach is also a skill. Okay. And I feel one of the biggest gaps is everyone walks in there very entitled, thinking that just because they can teach, they can use simulation to teach. But simulation based education needs to be learned well. You need to understand the scientific methods under it, what we are using, what are the steps, what are the processes. So, all of that needs to be learned correctly. So, my advice is yes, if you're interested, you're more than welcome. There's place for everyone out here. But take a good course. Okay, get yourself equipped with the knowledge, skills, and attitude that's required for simulation based learning. And the next, I would say, practice. Okay, practice your simulation based education, the skills in using this. I would also say read, do your own research. Don't stop at, oh, this is what I've learned, because every day it is evolving. As we speak, it is evolving. And there are so many different schools of thought, even in simulation based education, that there is a best practice or a gold standard. And then in a few months, you'll see, someone come up with something different, which is also legit, which is good enough. As he or she has described. So do your own research. That's something that I would really advise. And keep learning, keep learning. Yeah.
Are there like specific credentials for simulation educators? Like you need to qualify yourself as a simulation educator to pursue the field.
So there are not many credentials. There is one really popular one which is offered by the US. There is one also by an organization in the UK. There are around 6 to 7 leading simulation based education in healthcare organizations that are pioneering in this moment, if I may say. Like, they are leading through simulation. So they offer a lot of certifications, they offer accreditations to institutes, to organizations, to people. So you can either pursue the path of a simulation educator, you can pursue the path of a simulation technologist. There are also pathways for directors, managers of the center. There's the whole area for admin in simulation healthcare. So it's not only just one path. So you can go to any of these organizations and look them up, and they are very, very easily available. I would say the top few. One of them is the SSH, which is the Society for Simulation in Healthcare. Another one is called the CSAM, which is the Society for Simulation, but it's in Europe. So SSH is the US one, and CSAM is the Europe equivalent of it. There's one called INASCL, which is very nursing heavy. It's, all their thought leaders are nurses. So it's a very nice one if you belong to a nursing organization. There's one called SIMGOS, which is mostly for the technology part of it. The innovation and simulation, the simulation technologists. There's also one called ASPE, which is more for simulated patients and simulated participants. So all these are out of India right now. So if, that's where you have to reach out. There are a couple in India following certain standards, but I think at this point they still have to gain some traction. But these are the ones usually which are popular, which are trending, I would say.
Right.
Yeah, they have a lot of standards that you can follow if you're running a program. all these
Um,
organizations.
That's really good to know because usually, when some of the our past nursing students, they will usually message and say, Paul, can you recommend some courses in quality? So that's the usual question I get because
Hmm.
I was a qualitist back in India. So, likewise, I'm sure people after the show while might ask these questions, where do we get the credentials from? So thank you for enlightening us about, all those. Places, institutes from where you can develop your credentials. And I think India is moving forward in that direction. I think if anybody would like to move into that direction of being a simulation educator or pursuing the career in simulation, this would be very, very helpful for them. So thanks for that. Our next question is, given the growing demand for simulation in healthcare now across the globe, how are education institutions and hospitals, they're adapting and investing in this sector uh, to meet the needs of the practitioners across the nursing practitioners or the doctors or any clinical practitioner.
So I think, Pearl, in terms of investing in simulation-based education as a tool for teaching and learning, I think people are going in for it because, as I said, there's the patient safety element that's come into play, patient
Yeah.
advocacy. And it's not only that, it's also a safe space for the learner. So it's a win-win for the person who's learning as well as the patient. And simulation is not only used for teaching and learning, it is used also for drills to prevent any adverse events. It's used to simulate or mock maybe rare conditions which are not usually found in hospitals. It's also used for preparation, say opening a new hospital, you simulate like a mock drill. So it's all of it. So the investment is there in infrastructure, the investment is there in equipment. But where I see the gap is investment in faculty development, developing people to teach with simulation, like teach using simulation. I think there's a big gap. And also, like any other course, like any doctor, like any other nurse, we have to renew our license every now and then by performing a certain skill set or by showing credentials and credibility. Similarly, when you are a simulation enthusiast, I would say, you need to keep updating yourself. So I would say not only faculty development, but faculty development and maintenance. That is important. And that's where I see a big gap where organizations are not investing in this kind. They think it's a one-off investment. We get the space ready, we buy the best of equipment, the cameras, the software, and simulation will run. No, who will run it? That's the question. So investing in the people to be well trained and to keep updating themselves is really, really important.
I completely agree with that, Sharon. I think more than the actual procedural skill, I think simulation sort of explores, like you said, the team dynamics or how can communication be seamlessly done in a very high pressure sort of a scenario. I think that's where simulation helps a lot, isn't it? I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it does. As I said, it can you can use it wherever and whenever you want. And I think it's a lovely tool. It's very volatile. It can be molded as you want it, and you can use it in whatever range you want. Like you can do a very simple setup scenario and you can go, the full shebang, like all with like you want the alarms, you want the lifts to shut off, you want the siren to go on, and just do it like a mock drill. So you can go full on. So it all depends how you want to use it and for what you want to use it. And I think one of the discussions that we have within our team always when someone comes with a request saying that, oh, I want this as a simulation component, we look at the objectives and we ask, is simulation the answer to these objectives? Yeah. If there is maybe another way to teach those objectives without simulation, and we can see the end of it, and then we use the other mode. But if simulation is required, then yes, we definitely use simulation. So I also want to emphasize that simulation is not the answer for
For
everything.
everything.
Yes, which is again a very common mistake.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's
Yeah.
not the answer for everything. You need to see whether it is the answer to those objectives. And if it's yes, yes, by all means, go ahead.
Yeah, because sometimes it sounds very, high tech and very innovative, when people just want to explore and very excited to have something new. So I like what you said, like you really explore whether is simulation the answer for it. If it's not, then let's have some other method. But if simulation is the answer, go ahead with. So that's kind of very, 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 very thoughtful, Sharon. Now, talking about the high tech technology that is used in the far in depth sort of scenarios. So, as the technology continues to advance, what do you see as the next big trends in simulation education? Is there something new that is coming up from what we know, and how do you think that will improve the outcomes of healthcare professionals or healthcare in general?
I think there is something new, Pearl, coming up every time. Like every year, we go to a simulation conference, if we go to one and we see the exhibit. There's so many new things. You're like, oh my God. Sometimes I feel like, do I have the capacity to deal with this type of equipment? Because it totally, totally blows your mind. So it is evolving. It is incorporating a lot of AI, for example. It's very technology rich. Simulation is getting there. The environments are getting more and more immersive. That there's a very thin line between reality and what you're experiencing in that whole, yeah, in the virtual environment. So I think going forward, there'll be a lot of virtual platforms where you can meet and do simulation without probably physically immersing yourself in it. So I think that is definitely going to come. I think also, I don't know if you watched the very recent movie F1.
I want
Um,
to have
yes,
it
you
yet.
have to
Yes,
watch
on the
it. Okay,
cards.
you can skip this part because it's promotion for the movie,
No,
but
no,
it
no, go
was
on.
it was lovely.
Mhm.
And in that movie, one of the F1 drivers, he uses simulation for feedback and to check, where he goes wrong and why the, there's an accident that happens. So why did that accident happen? Why did it happen when it happened? So he goes through it again and again and again till he finds the answer. Like he's so obsessed by finding that answer. And I think that is what simulation is going to be used for these maybe really complex operations or procedures, or probably to investigate, something that didn't go as per plan. So what happened and why it happened and how can we rectify? That's the most important. Take home message. How do we rectify what has
Correct.
happened? So that is the way forward. Simulation for learning and feedback. I think that, yeah.
Yeah, that's an amazing insight actually, because when we talk about quality improvement, I mean that was my major role, where we used to go back and understand what happened and why did it happen and how
Yes,
we
yes.
we should avoid doing such things and what mechanisms, foolproof mechanisms we can put in place. But I think if simulation can give us that feedback in a scenario rather than in an actual scenario, but in a virtual scenario, I think that would be half of the problem solved, isn't it? So
Yes.
that's a beautiful insight. Yeah, I think we've majorly dealt with what simulation is all about, right? But of course, people and audiences who would like to know more, you can look up Sharon Mascarenhas and always get in touch with her and check with her if you're really, really interested to what this is all about. So we're going to move now to our next section called as a rapid fire round. I sort of enjoy this most. And Sharon, I'm going to ask you 7 questions. Um, Whatever first thing comes to your mind, like a one liner or few words. So let's, whatever that comes to mind, you can just
Yeah.
shoot it out.
One thing
Okay.
I want to tell you, Pearl, it's not going to be one word for
Oh,
sure.
right.
Okay. It'll
No,
be at least
perfect.
a sentence.
Yeah. Yeah. No, no, no. It's just to say that whatever first thing that comes to your
Yes.
mind, we ask these questions, right? So it need not be one word or anything, but yeah, something that comes to your mind on the top of your head. So let's begin then. One piece of advice you wish every nurse would follow.
I think it is leveling up your communication skills because it will really take you a long way.
I totally agree with that, Sharon. I think that's not just for nurses. I think in every profession, I think that is what.
In healthcare professions for in particular,
Yeah.
yeah, communication is key, not
Key.
only with your patients, with each other, with your team, and
Right.
learn everything of it, A to Z, verbal, non-verbal, the full
Yeah.
shebang. Okay, yeah.
Right. A simulation tool or technology that excites you the most.
I don't think there's anything in particular that really excites me, but it's the whole simulation concept, I would say, that excites me. Because there's so much you can do, there's so much that people are doing, and there's still so much to be done.
To be done.
Yes.
In one of your posts, I was reading something about germ eggs, but I don't know what that is. I thought I'll check with you this.
Yeah, GermX was it was a teaching module in microbiology, basically in PPE,
Mm.
how to hand wash, how to don, and how to doff. So we converted it into a very interactive escape room kind of a session. Yeah, so simulation is also not only about the very conventional simulation, it's also about, things like this, like the escape room. It's about gaming, serious gaming. So all this also comes into simulation. So the sky's the limit. There's so much that's being incorporated. Yeah. So earlier it was very traditional, very conventional, but now it's really gone really broad. Yeah.
Next question. One proudest moment as a simulation educator that you had.
I think it's every time my kids see me do something, like it might be something small, maybe teaching someone first aid or speaking something that is scientific based. Uh, I know that they're proud of me. They don't say it, but I know it. And that makes me very, like, very proud as well.
That's
Yeah.
that's so nice, Sharon. Right. And in one word, where do you see the nursing profession heading in the next decade?
Um, I was just reflecting on this and I'm thinking it's more of the care component
Hmm.
that will come into play. Because I feel with all this AI around us, there are a lot of other things that are getting automated, like the skills, for example, but it's more of the care, the compassion, that conversation, the belongingness, that there's another person in this room also who cares for me. So that I think is going to be emphasized on more rather than anything else, and not only for nurses in all of the healthcare professions.
Yeah, yeah, that's what people are afraid of losing out, isn't it? With all the technology coming in, are
Yes,
we going to
yes.
lose that human touch? Absolutely. Our next question. One thing simulation does better than traditional training methods. I think there are many things, but yeah,
Yeah.
one thing.
So simulation puts you in the situation and it keeps very little to the imagination, right? And that's it. You're living the experience. It's like your senses, you're thinking, you're doing, you're feeling, you're coordinating. So you're living the experience. So what better than living the experience?
Absolutely, that's brilliant. And if budget were in a concern, why I'm asking this question about budget is because,
Mhm.
like you said, simulation can be as little as giving injections on an orange, to as high as having a proper arm and making the person feel and everything. So, if budget wasn't a concern, what would your dream simulation lab have?
First of all, it has to be a standalone building, of course. Okay. And I think I would have multiple floors and I would have one floor for everything. Like, for example, if you really want to go basic and simple, one floor for that. Something for just the skills, I would have one floor for that. For scenario based, AI, VR, I would have separate floors for that. So if you want something really immersive, a separate floor for that. So I would have flow wise, depends on what you want and depends on what you want to do. That would be my dream simulation center. And in addition, I would also like to have something called for the community, where the people at large, they just can walk in and say, I want to try out simulation, irrespective of your age. And I would really like to have this concept where you can simulate a normal person, a lay person's biggest fear.
Oh,
Yes, and through that, just in the hope that they would, come one step closer to dealing with that aspect.
wow.
Yeah, so that's really something that I would love to do for the
That's
community.
quite deep, Sharon. But amen to that. You never know where life takes you, and maybe you'll be able to fulfill that.
Mhm.
um, if you could have one nursing superpower, what would
Mhm.
that?
It's something that we spoke about. It is the healing touch, you know. And when I say healing touch, it wouldn't be physical, but I think also mental and spiritual, because all three areas are equally important. And the healing touch on whoever is ailing and where they are ailing the most. Yeah.
That's beautiful. So that there we come to the end of our rapid fire round. Thank you so much for those beautiful insights. Now, there's one question which I ask everybody, and which is like the ethos of the show. How do
Mhm.
you think we can make nursing more visible?
I uh, I think nursing is already visible. If you ask me, it is visible, but I think what needs to be done is s- I don't know. It's not about the visibility of nursing, Paul. I'm thinking, what is it that's in the shadows? Is it visibility? This is my question to you. I don't think it's the visibility. Nurses are everywhere. For every one doctor, there are 10 nurses around. How can we be invisible? So,
Yeah,
what
because
is it that's
we-
in the
yeah,
shadows?
you're
That's the
absolutely
question.
right. So when we talk about visibility, and when I'm thinking about visibility, that's exactly my thing. We are so many, huge in number. People call us the backbone, the face, and name it. But what does it take for this profession to be uplifted, elevated, to be the prime profession? Few countries have started establishing that, but there are few countries which are still lacking, and are not able to give the right platform for the nurses. Because if I can just put it very bluntly, if we go in India, when I say that I'm a nurse,
Mhm.
you might be a different person. They don't know your background. They look up to you. But as soon as you say you're a nurse, they're like, okay, you're a nurse. And then the conversation stops that. It's not a conversation starter. In
Mhm.
some countries, it is a conversation starter. Oh,
Yes.
beautiful, you're a nurse. So I'm talking about that. At some places, conversation stopper, and they're not well respected. So somewhere I think a cross-border collaboration, a cross-border acknowledgement of nurses, not just restricted to which country you're working in, but across the globe. I feel that is where somewhere I think the profession has to be made visible, giving them the right acknowledgement, appreciation, and the frills and thrills with come with any other health profession. That's what I'm looking at.
I think, Pearl, that's a very that's a great and that's a great insight and quite aspirational as well. And I also feel, in terms of visibility, as we are discussing, it's also the culture. What I'm hearing is the culture. So the brand is the same, nursing worldwide. But what is the culture, for example, in US? What is the culture in Canada? What's the culture in India? What's the culture in the United Arab Emirates? So it's this culture that we should be speaking about, because I feel this culture is directly pegged to the visibility that we are talking about. And a culture cannot change overnight. It takes decades sometimes. And I feel that's where people like you come into play, where what you're doing is you are trying to change the culture, first of all, by having a platform like this. Second of all, you're speaking up about it. And hopefully, everyone else, by looking at you, will say, oh, yeah, if Pearl can do it, maybe so can I. And then it, has this ripple effect all over. And that is what changes the culture.
Yeah.
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 So it's not only waiting for others to do something for us, Pearl. It is us also meeting others halfway and saying, "Here we are, and now let's talk. Now let's talk business. Tell me, what can we build together?"
Yeah, absolutely, Sharon, and that's exactly why we embarked on this program. And recently when I had gone to India, I had this one young kid coming to me, and I didn't know her, but she was like, I've watched your show. She was a nurse in one of the hospitals, and she's like, I watched your show. Please don't stop it. It's quite inspiring. Because I had a feeling like, not many people are watching the podcast. Why am I doing it? When you hit that low, absolutely for in between I'd stopped doing it. But when this kid came to me, a very young novice nurse, and she said, "Don't stop it." Even if nobody's watching it, I'm watching it, and it's really inspiring. So, I think that's half the battle won. And by inviting people like you on the podcast, I want to make the world understand that there is so much that nurses can do. It's I want to change. When you talk about a nurse, I want to change that visual from a nurse, with the nursing cap and a stethoscope or a syringe, to a nurse probably, like a simulation educator, or a nurse sitting in a boardroom taking strategic decisions, or a nurse entrepreneur who is doing something innovative. So I want to change that visual of a nurse, and people like you who come on the show and inspire so many people. They really are helping me to change the culture, like you said.
Yeah.
So thanks so much, Sharon, for spending your time with us on this show. It's been really inspiring and motivational, and all the very best to you to go ahead and pave the path for your young nurses who want to be like you
Yeah.
and be a sim expert in the
Yeah.
future.
Thank you so much, Pearl. And I just want to say that each of us, in our place, even if, there are so many who are doing their job as a bedside nurse, but if you're doing your best there, with the knowledge, the attitude, and skill, there is no one to hold you back. There is no one to hold you back. And I think we need to also realize that we need to go in there equipped. And that's what I said earlier. Get your knowledge, get your facts, keep learning, be a lifelong learner. At the end of it, it shouldn't be that, oh, I've completed a degree ABC, so now I'm entitled to this. No, keep on learning, keep the curiosity on. And this is something that I learned quite late in life, by the way. Um, Earlier it was just okay, you've ticked the boxes, you've done the degrees, and you should land in this type of a job, because it was the that was how it was earlier. But
Yes.
uh but it doesn't end there, it doesn't stop there. The competition is good, it's healthy, but it's also fierce. So keep yourself updated, and to make a mark, you need to constantly update yourself. Yeah, not as an exhaustive process, but time and again, do a vibe check. Like, okay, so what's going on? What do I need to learn? What do I need to add? And these are the small things that take you along the professional pathway. And it's really important for us nurses to realize that it's not the terminal degree of nursing, be it bachelor's or master's. It doesn't end there. And I think, you know, if there's one thing I would like to say to all the young aspiring nurses, it's this, let it not end there. Be a lifelong learner. Yeah.
Wonderful to end the show with, Sharon. Thank you so much for all those insightful talks, and it's been my pleasure to connect with you once again as a friend and
Yeah.
as a host for
Thank
this
you
show.
so much, Paul.